Good evening and welcome to another episode of Rum and Relationships. I'm Rohit,
I'm Gauri.
and today the question that we have in mind is: are men and women equal?
Interesting.
What do you think?
I think men have come to play a role and women have come to play a role. Um, Men have their own strengths and women have their own strengths. And what do
True.
you think?
So, I agree with you, first of all. There's no doubt about that, that men are, women are equal. But where I would say something further, not to contradict you, is that I think men and women are equal and they are not equal. And what I mean by that is that there are roles that women can play that men cannot, physically and emotionally. And by the same standard, there are roles that men can play that women cannot. Again, physically and emotionally. And why this is the hot button topic today is that for reasons that escape me, both men and women have started to have a conflict about this, which hasn't really happened in all of human evolution. It's been a recent trend that we're seeing, so to say.
Because I think women have got more self sufficient. Men have been providers from the longest time.
That largely is to do with
Yeah,
it. That
yeah.
largely is to do with it. And earlier, when the roles were clear cut, even like as late as maybe the 60s and 70s, the norms were the same. But then once families started to go nuclear, and now you needed two providers in the family to provide for the entire family. Women entered the workplace, which is great. And again, that is still not a reason for the rules to change. Now, out here, if I'm being honest, and I know I will take some heat from people out there, I would say that the fault, and I am calling it a fault, lies with both men and women in terms of how they are perceiving this topic. And the reason I'm saying this is that men have the expectations of women being self sufficient. I don't think a lot of men have a problem with that, but they still expect the woman to play the role of a woman in addition to being a provider. Women, on the other hand, are taking on feminism. And initially, feminism, while that might have been good, there is a far extreme branch which is now taking feminism to the other side. And now you hear statements like, I don't need a man to do this. And there is an argument for that I can make. But out there, the role of the man, not just in terms of being a provider, the role of a man in terms of what he brings to the family, that has been diminished. So it's a battle for, literally a battle for supremacy. And I think my biggest problem is that there should not be a battle for supremacy. There doesn't need to be one. It's a war that never needs to be fought to begin with. Both people in a relationship can hold their heads high and coexist, playing their own individual roles. Today we have, I'm sorry.
But again, I think it boils down to how much of a role are you playing. Now, let's say the man is not adequately providing to the family, and then the woman has to step up,
Yeah.
right? And that changes the roles. Now, let's say the man gets comfortable. All right, I don't have to do this. The woman's doing it. The woman does that, and then she continues doing different things. And that's taken. I think men need to understand what exactly their role is in the relationship.
And so
I mean,
do
that's
women.
why,
So do women
yeah,
also.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I'm just saying in terms of when we saying providers, and because women are also providers nowadays, I think that's where the entire uh, problem arises. Because what is your role versus my role? If you're the provider and I'm the provider, what role am I playing and what role are you playing? That I think has to have roles that have to be discussed within a couple versus boundaries.
So, Gauri, I would say one thing. So, just as women are being providers today, the another one truth is that even men are taking on roles that were typically associated with women. You see so many men now entering the kitchen, which earlier, oh my
Correct.
God, it was taboo. I've been doing it ever since I was young from
Yeah.
the very start. But there are certain men, even today, who say, I'm not getting into the kitchen. So you see men cooking half the time, or when the woman cooks, they'll help clear up the kitchen. And of course, maybe I'm talking from a certain Canadian perspective, where it was just, me and my ex-wife, and, we had to take care of the kids. Both of us were doing both the roles. So I used to cook half the time, she used to cook half the time,
So I think it's a
cleaning and
balance of
everything else. Right.
responsibilities. Huh?
So at no point did I ever feel that this is a woman's job,
Yeah, yeah,
this
yeah.
is a man's job, that kind of a thing. Yeah, sure,
I'm not talking about jobs. I'm talking about the rules.
right.
I'm talking about the
Fine.
rules getting
That's his role.
abused. Right.
So either way, I think one has to recognize that with the society evolving and ultimately having to take responsibility for their decisions. If you want to be in a nuclear family, now it's just you and your husband. Whether or not you have kids, that's a whole different equation. But there are men now doing things that men traditionally never used to do. And women are doing things that are men never traditionally used to do.
But there were also society norms, na, Rohit? Ki aadmi, like when I was married into a Punjabi family, and so when my kids were young, I've got two sons, by the way. So when my sons were younger, and we've been brought up the traditional way, right? कि बड़ों की प्लेटें उठाने में or whatever, सेवा करने में कोई problem नहीं है.
But I think that is
Right?
more of a mark of respect than something
Correct,
to do with a
correct,
man and a woman.
correct. But we were taught that way. So when I would finish my food or something, and I've just come back from work, and I would tell Mahin, मेरी plate ले जा, या Aman, मेरी plate ले जा. And my mom-in-law would always tell me कि लड़के ये काम
Yeah,
नहीं
I know,
करते,
I know.
लड़के ये काम नहीं करते.
This is more prevalent than you even notice.
Yeah, so my question used to be क्यों नहीं करते? क्यों नहीं करते? I mean,
that's a fair question. That's a fair question.
Which she never had an answer to. So I'm saying that there were these things that men can do this and women can do this, and this is what your role is. This, I think the whole roles have been so distorted that everyone's got so confused as कि मेरा role ही क्या है?
But at the same time, it's this matter is something that I've seen people try and oversimplify the matter. I mean, they're quick to point fingers that this is to blame, this is to blame, whereas the matter is not all that simple. I mean, even within our own society. So, the one example that you mentioned is great. So, I'll give you another one example. Okay, where I used to really feel for my ex-wife, and so when the kids were young, especially my younger son that time. He was in first grade, and he was in Delhi at the time before we had moved to Canada. And she used to take him to school, and no, sorry, the driver used to take him to school, and then in the evenings I used to pick him up. And during our PTA meetings, when she used to be there, and the class teacher used to ask her that you have such a young son, but you're working. I mean, this is a proper high-end school. And the teacher was giving her grief, or rather guilt, for being a working mother. And I swear to God, my heart used to reach out for her because she did not deserve that.
No, but
Now, again, she wasn't working because there wasn't enough money in the house. She was working because she was entitled to a career just like I was. But it doesn't mean that you have to take shit from a school teacher for that. So that is on one side. On the other side, if I was to be fair, when I hear women saying, I don't need a man, I think that is one of the most ignorant things that a woman can say. Because I would say to her, the roof you're sitting under was made by a man. The car that you drive and the roads that you're driving on were probably made by a man. The building you work on was made by a man. So don't tell me you don't need a man. The chair that you're sitting on was probably made by a man. So this conflict which has come now, I don't know why people are just giving it so much of importance. I mean, it's simple. Reconcile to the fact that we both have different roles. We are the same. Our contributions to our families in terms of raising our kids, respecting people, building up communities are the same. Why is it that so many women are the ones who are now spearheading all the community movements? Now, you can't put a rupee value to that, but they are the ones spearheading all the large social media initiatives. Well, not social media, I'm sorry, social initiatives. So, where are the men there? Even men are doing that. But they are the ones doing that, and they are playing an admirable role there. It doesn't diminish their value towards society. I mean, I would even go as far as to say that if a woman is involving herself in the community to help out other people, her work, the impact of her work is significantly larger than a man who's providing for maybe 3 people. What she is doing is probably helping out 300 people.
But I
So
think
it's a way to think.
that eventually depends on the relationship and how much you value the other person's work versus what the other person's really bringing to the table.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, a lot of times I think in relationships it's overlooked, and that's exactly why I don't need you. You know, that's a very simple statement. But have you really thought through as to what do you think you can do, or what is that other person bringing to the table for you to be able to say something like that? Are you saying it without thinking? Are you really thinking it through? I mean, they would be different circumstances, and we're not really talking about one. I mean, everyone's situation is different.
Yeah.
So,
But it does have an unintended consequence. And the unintended consequence, in my opinion, is that when a person gets into this, especially if both the people get into this thing that I'm somehow better than you or I'm doing more than you are,
competition नहीं होनी
the
चाहिए.
competition comes in, which is a huge factor in destroying relationships.
Yeah, I mean, I strongly believe, I mean, if you're in a relationship, you need to work as one. It's
Team,
one,
a team.
yeah, as a team.
Exactly.
You know, you need to have one goal. You need to have certain things that are, you need to have conversations as to what are we really trying to achieve. And I think the best relationships are when you have a goal together or when you have a purpose together. I think those are the relationships that really
tight.
grow forward. Yeah, grow forward, sorry.
And you have the entire world to compete with. तुम्हें अपना मियाँ या तुम्हें अपनी बीवी ही मिली है. There are 8.4 billion people you can compete with. We've chosen to compete with one.
So why do you think competitions become so prevalent?
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah. This is about honest conversations.
I don't have the answer to that. Now, maybe you do. I don't actually. That question caught me off guard. I don't. I mean, I can give some
I think
bullshit
because-
story, but then I wouldn't believe in it. So let me ask you this. What are your opinions as to Gauri's question?
Would love to hear them.
Yeah, I mean, why? So if you have a view on this, you could either leave a comment in our section, or if you don't want to share your opinion out there, send us an email. It's ramenrelationships@gmail.com. Send us an email and talk to us, because it's quite rare that I don't. When I say that, I don't have an answer to that.
And we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. What do you think?
I think because the rules have got messed up.
Yeah, but your question is valid. Why?
Because
Why have the rules
got
gotten messed up? Why?
Because no one's drawing boundaries.
Why?
Because they're not. Because they're not having
Why?
conversations.
So I think we need to help out
They're
here.
not having. Maybe the next episode should be about communication
Yeah, we
in a
should.
relationship.
Yeah. But I don't think communication is the one at fault here.
I mean, unless
You
I
think, it's
don't
peer
communicate.
you think it's peer pressure?
Also, but I think it's clarity between the couple as to मेरा role क्या है versus your role, or in any relationship.
Okay, I'm just getting a random thought out here. You think it's a desire to conform with the societal narrative? Like, because all the people right now believe that, this is what feminism is all about. I get to say that, I am who I am. Of course, you're not saying that you're superior to the man,
Yeah.
but the way you say it, the way you imply it, indicates that you are.
And Rohit, the other thing is entitlement. I am
Tell me
right.
more.
I am right.
Yeah,
I can't be wrong.
but that's with men also.
Are we talking about both?
Yeah.
I mean, it really depends on who's got more of
So,
it.
see, all said and done, with India, it's mostly a patriarchal society, right?
Right.
I mean, it's driven by men who used to have traditionally made all the laws and the rules. So we've come today to a point. Now, this is another one part of the argument that I accept, is that because India is a patriarchal society, the men have made all the rules, and women have been on the south side of those. And they finally, at some point, said, enough. Even we have a say. And that is a brilliant move. I agree with that. So when the societal shift has taken place,
Yeah.
I think one thing has contributed is that it's happened too fast. That is one. Number two, the mistake that I think India made was that we, in our desire to emulate the West, we did that, not realizing that the West is a completely different culture from the Indian culture. So we wanted to ape the West. So when the Me Too movement started over there, which started off as a valid movement with good roots, solid foundations, and it did not take very long. In fact, it took a matter of year, maybe a year at best, before there were cases of women abusing that Me Too power. And then once the news got out of women abusing that Me Too power, the entire thing fizzled out. So if you use something, it's a good thing for you. You abuse it, that'll never work out in your favor.
Absolutely.
So I can see why the women in India did that. They came out of the shell. Great. We've produced some of the top CEOs today are women. Beautiful. I'm so proud of these women. But some of them, not saying all of them, I'm saying some tiny minority has taken it too far. Unfortunately, that tiny majority are the ones who have the loudest voices. Now, if I take my mom, she's a strong woman who's worked all her life. She's played her role, never have I ever seen. And my parents have been married for over 55 years. Touch wood, they're still madly in love with each other. And I've never seen any kind of a conflict in terms of that you're a man and I'm a woman and, are we equal and all. They've always known that they were equal. So that has had a fundamental shift in the way I was brought up. And in families that don't have that balance, you generally have men who are continuing with that thing that, as men, we are more powerful. And that is wrong.
No, I think the essential thing in a relationship is when you're working as a team and when you're not working, it's also the energy that you're bringing into a relationship. So
Yeah.
if you're not working as a team and my energy
Yes.
is all over the place, everyone's going to sense it. Your kids are going to sense it. Your neighbors are going to sense it. Your friends are going to sense it. Everybody senses it.
Your dog will sense it.
So it's very important to be in sync, to be on the same page.
And I've seen friends of mine, both here and in Canada, unfortunately, they are in the minority. When both the people are in sync, like you just said right now, it's one of the most beautiful things to watch. And it shows by the way they look at each other. It shows by the way, they'll go to a party and they'll be sitting together and, somebody puts an arm around the other person. It's the small little things that really matter.
Rohit, I think if everyone realizes that we are not perfect and a partner is supposed to fill in the gaps, I'm not good at everything.
Yeah.
I need the other person to fill in the things that I'm not good at, and I can fill in what he's not good at, And I think that's a perfect couple. And as long as there's an understanding of each other, somewhere that understanding again gets confused to I know you and I know you, because when you're looking at only the negatives of the person, and who doesn't have negatives? Everyone's got negatives, if as long as you're looking at the positives, I think weigh the positive versus the negative and then decide as to where you need to take this forward.
And the one other thing that happens is that if you are viewing each other and there's a very subtle unspoken war of supremacy at home, what's going to happen? Now, let's say if there was one couple that was married, no kids, I'm going to simplify it. They're living together and there is this kashmakash happening. Anytime now, let's say the man or the woman, doesn't matter who, they are in a weak spot. They need help emotionally, financially, whatever it is. You think that person would run to the other person and say, I need help? Because as a couple, as a unit, that's what you would want. You want that security from your partner. That tomorrow, if I need your help,
Yeah.
I should be able to come across to you and say, I need help.
Yeah.
But I won't do that because for me, that will signify a
My
sign of
weakness.
weakness. And as a result, I close up, or if it's happening to her, she withdraws, and our relationship weakens.
But I think that's what people need to look at the relationships as one. I mean, are you a team together? Are you working towards getting better tomorrow? Because there's so much of power when you unite.
There's immense power there.
Yeah, yeah.
There's immense power there, and we both have seen that. When relationships in our own lives have been at the state, where we could just completely blindly trust the other person to be there for us, and not have a stupid battle about supremacy. And I think if one can avoid that, you will be doing yourself such a big favor.
I think you'll be way more calmer in your relationship because,
More confident.
yeah, more confident, more at peace.
And that'll actually show on the outside, because if you are strong on the inside, you're going to be strong on the outside to battle the other battles outside the house.
Yeah.
So
And that's it for this episode of Rum and Relationships.
now I hope you watched the last episode, because I spoke to you about the book, my favorite book, which was the one that I read in college, Richard Bach's The One, and the quote that it had on the back cover, which said, I gave my life to become the person I am today. Was it worth it? So your homework, so to say, is to go back in time when you were 20 years old and ask the same question. Get an answer. Repeat when you were 25, 30, 35, and 40. You will see a pattern emerging out there. And it's not for you to tell us, but just think about what your answer was in all those phases in life. And then, of course, the most important answer is the one you'll give yourself today. So think about that. And once again, if there are any comments, any questions, come back to us, and you can write us an email to rumandrelationships@gmail.com. And of course, the usual like, share, subscribe.
And we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, be a part of the discussion. I know this is a bit of a thorny topic, and it's a good thing because, once in a while you have to address these thorny topics. And I'm sure you have your own views. Send us a comment on Facebook, on YouTube. And let's carry the conversation on. We'd love to hear from you. All right, till then, from me, Rohit, and
Corey, see you
Good
next
night.
time. Good night.
bye.